Daddy, cry for me. Come on, cry.
Deep in the recesses of my brain, a tiny red-hot little flame began to grow.
All right, y'all, let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. We faced Georgia in Game 11, Week 12 of the 2023 season. Georgia is highly favored in every game this year. I would be highly surprised if Georgia's not undefeated when they enter Neyland Stadium on November 18th. Georgia, if you look at Vegas odds, they are favored to win the national championship again this year. And they have just been bullies. As you see in the clip earlier in this video, they've just been beating up on everybody. You know, you look at SEC competition, and they're averaging 39 points a game to SEC foes 9 points a game in the past 2 seasons. And it gets worse when it's outside the SEC. And then when it comes to Tennessee, Tennessee's not doing much better themselves. Georgia's averaging 34 points a game to Tennessee's 15 points a game.
Yo!
All right, let's talk about the Georgia offense. This is an offense that averaged 41 points a game. It was 5th best in the country last year. A lot of people talk about the Georgia defense. Let me tell you, the Georgia offense was just as good, but they are losing some key people. Stetson Bennett, Zamir White, Warren McClendon, Broderick Jones. These guys are all in the NFL now. And so, you know, let's start with quarterback. Carson Beck is going to be more than likely the guy that's going to step in to be the quarterback next year for Georgia. He threw for 310 yards. He played really good in the Oregon game when I look back at that game last year. and then the Georgia spring game, he by far looked the best out of the other quarterbacks. But anyway, this is his 3rd year in the system at Georgia. He's out of Jacksonville, Florida. But anyway, I look for him to have a big year. He's got a lot of key pieces around him as far as running backs and receivers. The running backs, he's got Milton, Edwards, and Robinson. These guys, over the course of their Georgia careers, they've rushed for over 2,500 yards. So these guys can definitely get it done. They got a lot of experience. And, you know, they're running behind an experienced offensive line. They are losing McClendon and Jones, but they get their center back. He's a 2-year starter. And a lot of guys like Tate Rutledge, Green, they're back. They got a lot of playing time, so these guys aren't just, you know, freshmen coming in, you know, doing this thing. They've been there, done that. As far as tight ends and receivers, you know, you got the Mackey Award winner, Brock Bowers.
But their offensive line, very good.
There's a little flip forward to Brock Bowers, the outstanding tight end.
You know, Brock Bowers, he had over 900 yards receiving and 1,000 total yards last year. The guy did everything. He catches everything. He's a tight end, but he really runs and catches like a receiver. And then you got Darnell Washington on the other side. You know, he looks like LeBron James. He's huge. And then as far as the receivers, you got Ladd McConkey. You know, I think he had over 700 yards last year receiving. Solid. I remember when I watched him in the national championship, he had almost 100 yards receiving. So anyway, Georgia offense is loaded. They're ready to go. And they're going to be tough on SEC defenses this year. All right, guys, you heard me talk about the Georgia offense. Now I'm going to talk about the Georgia defense. This is a defense that was 10th in total defense last year and 5th in team defense. They do lose several notable people from last year, but they return a majority of that defense back. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Robert Bill, Keely Ringo are gone. They're all in the NFL. But you know, a ton of playmakers are back from that team. And I'm going to kind of start with the linebackers and discuss those guys. Jamon Dumas Johnson, you know, he's the guy that gets them lined up. He's kind of the leader, the heartbeat of that defense. Beside him, you've got Smile Munden. He led the team in tackles with 76 last year. Great ball player. Both those guys are back. And then, you know, you go to the D-line. They do lose Jalen Carter. You know, Jalen was just a great ball player, and he just wreaked havoc. But they've got a lot of guys back that have a lot of a lot of playing time, a lot of experience. As Nas Stackhouse, for example, he had 33 tackles. He led the defensive line for Georgia last year in tackles. Tramel Walthour, he's another guy. He started 13 times last year, ton of experience. And then this next guy I'm going to talk about, Mikael Williams, he only started in 2 games, but he had 4.5 sacks, which led the team. And I expect him to get a lot more playing time this year. I think you're going to hear his name a lot. I think you're going to see. I think last year most Georgia fans will tell you that they didn't have as many sacks or pressures as the normal defenses they've had with them. I think this year you're going to kind of see they're going to get more pressures, more sacks. I think this defense is going to resemble the 2021 defense more than the 2022 defense. So I think you're going to see their ratings even higher this year. They're going to get kind of back more to that Kirby Smart standard. Anyway, I'm going to kind of talk about the secondary now. Kamari Lassiter, he's back. 15 games. He started last year. Just a solid ball player. Hard to throw on him. Great tackler. He had 38 tackles last year. Malachi Starks, another great corner. He started 13 times last year. He had 45 tackles. And then Javon Bullard is back. He's the guy that put that big hit on Marvin Harrison Jr. last year.
Stroud rolling, looking that way, retreating, and he'll just throw it out of the back of the end zone. There was heavy pressure. Actually, a flag comes out.
And I really think that was the turning point in that semifinal game. I honestly think that if he does not break that pass up, Ohio State does win that game. But anyway, Georgia, the returning 7 starters from last year. I think you're going to see an even better Georgia defense this year. And I think that this Georgia defense is going to cause SEC offenses a lot of problems. All right, I've discussed the offense and the defense, and now I'm going to just take a moment to talk about the special teams. They do lose their place kicker, who was first team All SEC last year, but they do return their punter from last year. So we'll have to see if the kicking game suffers at all or not. I honestly don't expect any games to come down too much to kicking with Georgia. They pretty much should have their way. The only game I see on the schedule for Georgia that might give Georgia any kind of hiccup will be the Tennessee game on November 18th. Hopefully Tennessee will be at least have just under 1 SEC loss. So when we do go into that game, the SEC East will be on the line. But anyway, thank you for tuning in to my preseason preview of the Georgia Bulldog game on November 18th. Tennessee will definitely have to bring their A game if they want to win that game. Like I said, Georgia's preseason favorite to win the whole thing, and for good reason. They're definitely the most talented and one of the best coached teams in the country. Thank you.